With us once again is Faiz Shakir, the editor-in-chief of the blog, which broke the story about the Chamber's foreign funding. Think Progress. Faiz, good evening to you.
Good evening, Keith.
Raising funds from Americans overseas is legal, and Democrats do it too. Why is this time any different?
Well, the Chamber is running $75 million of attack ads, and you just showed some of them. And I think it's important for people to know if the Chamber is trying to influence the outcome of our elections, people deserve to know who's behind those ads and what their agenda is. And as we've documented, you've documented, the Chamber is a proud outsourcer. And if jobs is the central issue of this election, and I think it is, that we need to know that the Chamber is out there advocating for the outsourcing of jobs and receiving money from firms who are benefiting from outsourcing to run those ads in a lot of these districts.
Why do Republicans want to ship U.S. jobs overseas?
Well, I think it benefits them. I think certainly in the case of Mark Kirk, he's receiving a lot of campaign donations from the Chinese firms that he's helping to coach in outsourcing. We know that Carly Fiorina, who is a Senate candidate in California, has been an advocate of outsourcing, has benefited from it personally with her own personal wealth. We know Pat Toomey, who used to lead the Club for Growth and is now a Pennsylvania candidate, believes that corporations shouldn't have any roles in regulations at all, and he again is somebody who's benefiting greatly from corporations who are shipping jobs overseas and making a lot of money and sending it to their campaigns. So it's at the bottom line level, they're receiving a lot of money and they're backed by people who are getting great benefit from shipping jobs overseas. Yeah,
because with no corporate regulations, 1893 was such a good year in this country. The foreign money obviously is the visceral thing, and it got a lot of play. But is there a bigger point here that sort of transcends both foreign money and corporate American money, that it's all about getting the same agendas pushed down people's throats?
Yeah, I think that the agenda is the overlooked portion of this. I think that a lot of the firms that don't want to be known are shuttling money to the Chamber in the hopes that the Chamber is going to do all the blocking and tackling for them. They're going to run the plays on the field, and the corporations are going to hide out in the skybox suite and hope that nobody pays attention. And I think that's our goal, is to make sure that the people who are funding these ads, who have the agenda, who believe that if Republicans take over, that it's going to be a corporate takeover of our democracy. I mean, we had a swift voting in 2004 of John Kerry. I think we're going to have a swift voting of democracy in this election if we allow what the corporations are trying to do with their money to go unregulated. And I think it's really the great challenge of the upcoming elections, because if they can get away with it in 2010 and funnel all this money in without regulations and try to buy off some seats, then who knows what they're going to do in 2012, right?
And you mentioned it in passing. SwiftVote's financier sent $7 million to Karl Rove's PAC, which we'll get into in a moment. But last question for you. This New York Times study of the corporate tax filings and the other records, which determined that despite the Chamber's claims and the Glenn Beck nonsense that, you know, the U.S. Chamber is just mom and pop stores, that the nation's biggest lobbying organization, big surprise, it is a monster that is bought and controlled by the largest multinational corporations in the world. It's 12 days to go before the midterms. Is there a chance this changes the midterms?
I think so, and I hope so. I think, to your point, Keith, why do corporations give money to the Chamber? Because the Chamber's got this reputation as being very popular. It represents mom-and-pop corporations. You note the quote from the New York Times that half the money they got was just from 45 corporations. And then we know that American Crossroads is getting a bulk of its money from just a handful of corporations. And you've documented a hedge fund person in New York who's bankrolling a bunch of attack ads just by himself. What I think Americans need to know is that there were about 580,000 people who donated to Obama. They've got a list of 13 million people. And on the opposite side are like a small number of people, like a small number of corporations who are trying to steal all this away from him.
Faiz Shakir of Think Progress, great thanks as always.
Sure, thank you.